The true test of a person is never taken when the world is watching. It happens in the quiet moments when no eyes are on you, when no applause can be heard, when no one even knows what you're doing. That is where your real strength is born. That's where your character is measured, because it's easy to perform when others expect it from you. It's easy to give your best when you're being observed, when someone might reward your effort or praise your progress. But the real measure of greatness is what you do when the room is empty, when there's no one to impress, no one to push you, and no one to validate your effort. In those moments when you feel the silence surrounding you, when the world seems asleep and no recognition is near, that's where the unseen battle begins, the battle between your comfort and your commitment, your excuses and your purpose. Most people don't fight this battle. They wait for someone to tell them what to do. They move only when they're seen. They depend on accountability from others because they haven't yet learned how to hold themselves accountable. They perform under supervision but crumble when left alone. And that's why so many remain stuck. They never learn to trust their own power, to find strength in solitude, to push themselves when no one claps for them. But the truth is, that's exactly where transformation begins, when you stop needing eyes on you to move forward. There's something sacred about the moments when no one is watching. It's in those quiet, unseen hours that your soul shows its true color. Every choice you make when you're alone is shaping the person you are becoming. When you choose effort over ease, growth over comfort, persistence over laziness, you are rewriting your future in silence. You may think no one sees it, but you see it. Your mind records it. Your spirit feels it. And over time, that unseen work becomes visible strength, because who you are in private always echoes in who you become in public. Ibrorii in the beg. Inning, it feels hard. It feels like you're walking alone on a dark road, unseen, unappreciated, and unnoticed. But that's exactly how greatness feels at first. It grows in silence. The people you admire didn't become who they are because of attention. They became great because they learned to master themselves when the lights were off. They learned to give effort when no one expected it, to keep going when no one cared, to stay committed when no one believed. That's what built their foundation. That's what gave them unshakable strength. The truth is, when you're alone, you meet the most honest version of yourself. There's no mask, no performance, no audience, just you and your choices. And in that moment, you discover who you truly are, whether you are driven by purpose or by pressure, whether you act from discipline or from desire to be seen. Every time you choose to push yourself in those silent hours, you are not just building skill, you are building integrity. You are proving to yourself that you can rely on your own will, that you don't need validation to move forward, that your dream matters even if no one else sees it yet, because the real victory isn't in the applause. It's in the quiet pride of knowing you kept going when you could have stopped. It's in the deep satisfaction of knowing you showed up for yourself when no one else was there. That feeling, that private triumph, is worth more than any recognition the world can offer. It's the foundation of unshakable confidence, the kind that no one can give or take away. So the next time you find yourself alone and the silence feels heavy, remember this: that silence is your proving ground. That's where strength is born. That's where your true self emerges. Push yourself when no one is watching, because those unseen battles will one day create a life that everyone will see and admire. But only you will know how much quiet strength it took to build it. Discipline is what separates those who dream from TH. Those who achieve. Motivation may get you started, but it fades like smoke. It's a feeling, temporary, unstable, and unreliable. Discipline, however, is a decision. It's the power to act according to your goals, not your moods. When you rely on motivation, you move only when you feel inspired. But when you rely on discipline, you move regardless of how you feel. That is the difference between average and unstoppable, because there will be days when you don't feel like showing up. Days when your body is tired, your mind is loud, and your heart questions if it's worth it. That's when most people stop. They give themselves permission to rest, not realizing that rest often turns into regression. But those who have built discipline don't negotiate with excuses. They don't wait for energy or excitement. They create it through action. They understand that commitment comes first and motivation follows. Eborg discipline is self-command. It's the ability to tell yourself, do it anyway. It's the strength to choose the hard path when the easy one calls your name. And the truth is, discipline doesn't feel good at first. It feels cold, it feels lonely, it feels repetitive. But beneath that discomfort lies power, the kind of power that builds self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen the bond between who you are and who you want to be. I rise, but they remain unshaken because they act from a deeper place, a place of purpose. They understand that progress isn't supposed to be exciting every day. It's supposed to be consistent. It's supposed to be deliberate. Discipline gives you control over your future because it gives you control over yourself. And when you control yourself, no external circumstance can control you. When no one is watching, discipline is your only witness. It's the invisible hand that guides you through fatigue, through doubt, through moments of weakness. It's what turns chaos into structure and dreams into reality. The world may not see the quiet battles you fight, the early mornings, the late nights, the choices you make in silence. But discipline remembers. It stores every action, every effort, and every repetition deep within your character. Over time, those small acts of consistency transform into strength, confidence, and unstoppable drive. That's why the disciplined never fear losing, because they know how they were built. They were built in silence, in routine, in moments of unseen effort. The end, discipline is freedom. It may sound like control, but it's the opposite. When you master discipline, you free yourself from the chains of laziness, distraction, and emotional instability. You no longer need to wait for the right mood or the right time. You act because you've made a choice. And that choice, to show up no matter what, becomes your greatest weapon. So remember this: motivation will give you a spark, but discipline will give you fire. Motivation fades when the crowd disappears, but discipline stays when the lights go out. It's the quiet force that keeps you moving when no one else does. And that, more than anything, is what builds greatness. The ability to push yourself through the darkness, guided only by the light of your own discipline. The greatest form of respect is the one you give to yourself. It isn't built by compliments or by others' approval. It's built by the quiet act of keeping your own word. Every time you promise yourself something and follow through, you build self-trust. And every time you make an excuse, delay your goals, or break that promise, you weaken the bond you have with your own spirit. Most people don't realize this, but their confidence doesn't die overnight. It dies slowly. Every time they lie to themselves about what they'll do tomorrow. Every time they choose comfort over commitment. Every time they say, "I'll start later," and never do. That slow erosion destroys self-respect, because deep down, you always know whether you're doing your best or pretending that you are. True confidence doesn't come from pretending to be great. It comes from the satisfaction of knowing that you've earned every bit of who you've become. You can fool the world, but you can't fool yourself. You can post about progress, talk about discipline, even wear the mask of success. But when you're alone, your heart knows the truth. It knows whether you gave your all or gave in. That's why those who live for external validation always feel empty. Their worth is dependent on opinions, not integrity. But those who work in silence and stay loyal to their own word, even when no one else sees it, feel a kind of peace that can't be faked. That peace comes from knowing you've honored your own standards. It's a calm strength that grows quietly inside and reflects in everything you do. The power of self-respect lies in consistency. You don't earn it by doing something big once. You earn it by doing the small things daily, the boring, uncelebrated, unseen acts that align with your values. When you set an alarm and wake up on time, even when no one checks on you, that's self-respect. When you follow through on your plan despite your emotions, that's self-respect. When you choose discipline over distraction, that's self-respect. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up for yourself again and again, even when no one gives you credit for it. Those small acts compound until one day you become someone who doesn't need external validation because your inner validation is louder. People who rely on others to hold them accountable never become truly free. They always need supervision, reminders, and praise to keep going. But the ones who build self-accountability become unstoppable. They don't need anyone to motivate them because their motivation comes from a deeper source, from their own respect for their future self. They understand that no one is coming to save them, and that realization gives them power, because once you know you're responsible for your own growth, you stop waiting and start acting. You begin to move with purpose, not pressure. Every time you choose to do what you said you would, you are reinforcing your identity as someone who can be trusted. You're telling your subconscious mind, I can count on myself. And that belief becomes the foundation of true strength. You become confident not because of what others think, but because you know you're not a liar to yourself. You know that your actions match your words, that your dreams are backed by effort, and that your future is being built by integrity. So if you want real power, not the kind that fades with attention, but the kind that lasts forever, then start by keeping your promises to yourself. The world doesn't need to see it. The applause doesn't matter. What matters is that you see it, that you know you're living in alignment with your highest standard, because the person who can trust themselves no longer fears anything, not failure, not judgment, not doubt. They have already won the hardest battle, the one against their own excuses. The hours you spend in silence, the effort no one witnesses, and the work you put in when the world sleeps. That is where greatness is born. Success does not appear suddenly. It is built quietly, piece by piece, when no one is paying attention. Every drop of sweat, very repetition, every early morning or late night adds up. These invisible investments compound into strength, skill, and mastery. You cannot cheat this process because life records everything you do in private. Every effort you give, no matter how small, becomes a part of who you are becoming. The world may not see it today, but time will. And when the results finally show, they will seem effortless to others. Yet you will know the truth. You will know the unseen hours that created them. Hebrew. Most people crave recognition before they've earned it. They want others to see their effort, to notice their progress, to validate their struggle. But the truth is, the universe rewards those who work in silence. When you are working quietly without distractions or expectations, you connect with your true purpose. There are no spectators, no judgments, no comparisons, just focus. That silence becomes your ally. It sharpens your mind, strengthens your will, and deepens your connection to the goal. The absence of attention allows you to give your best without the pressure of performance. You can fail, learn, improve, and repeat without fear. That's how mastery is built, in private, through repetition and relentless persistence. There's a reason the greats always say they were built in the dark. Because in darkness, you are forced to rely on yourself. You learn patience. You learn consistency. You learn to find satisfaction in the work itself, not in the applause that follows. The hours you spend alone with your craft, your goals, your vision, those are sacred. Every second spent improving yourself in silence is a declaration that you believe in your dream enough to pursue it without recognition. Most will never reach this level of devotion because they need to be seen to feel valuable. But the truly powerful have learned that their worth is not measured by who notices their effort. It's measured by their willingness to give that effort even when no one ever will. Brooke, when you dedicate yourself in private, something changes within you. You stop chasing validation and start chasing growth. You stop comparing your journey to others because your only competition is the person you were yesterday. That shift transforms your mindset. The silence that once felt lonely now feels empowering. You begin to understand that these quiet hours are not punishment. They are preparation. Every private effort you make is shaping the person you need to become to handle the success that's coming. Because success demands strength, and strength is not built in public. It's built when you're alone, when you're tired, when you're doubting yourself, and you still keep going. So don't be afraid of the silent grind. Don't feel discouraged when no one notices your progress. That invisibility is your advantage. It allows you to grow without pressure, to fail without shame, to evolve without judgment. You are planting seeds that will one day become forests. The world will see the trees, but only you will remember the nights you watered the soil in silence. That's why the quiet work is the most powerful kind, because it doesn't just build results, it builds character. It teaches you resilience, focus, humility, and patience. And when your time finally comes, the world will see your success and call it sudden. But you'll know it wasn't sudden at all. You'll know it was a silent work, the hours no one saw, that made everything possible. When no one else can see you, there is still one person who always does. you. The mirror never lies. You can pretend to others. You can act as if you're putting in the work, but deep down, your reflection knows the truth. You know whether you've done the work or made excuses. You know whether you've given your best or settled for comfort. That truth lives inside you, and no matter how much you try to ignore it, it speaks every time you look yourself in the eyes. The mirror test is the most honest evaluation you'll ever face. It's no tea about how others see you. It's about whether you can meet your own gaze with pride or with shame. The reflection staring back at you carries the weight of your discipline, your effort, and your integrity. There is a deep peace that comes when you can look at yourself and feel no guilt, no regret, no need to justify your inaction. E, it's your inner self demanding growth, calling you to rise, reminding you that you were made for more. Every time you feel that discomfort, you're being invited to evolve. The question is whether you'll listen. Will you turn away from the reflection, or will you face it until it reflects the strength, discipline, and pride you desire? When you can finally look into your own eyes and feel respect instead of regret, you've reached a level of peace few ever know. That's the ultimate success, not fame, not money, not validation, but the inner confidence of knowing you kept your word to yourself. That feeling stays with you long after the applause fades. It becomes the foundation of everything you do. Because no matter what the world thinks, you will always know your truth. And if your truth is that you worked with integrity, pushed through your limits, and gave everything you had, then you'll be able to stand tall in any storm. So every day when you face that mirror, remember this: your reflection is your judge, your witness, and your reward. Make sure it sees someone who never gave up, even when no one was watching. The strongest people in life are those who have learned to be their own coach. They don't wait for someone to tell them what to do. They don't depend on encouragement or supervision. They guide themselves, correct themselves, and push themselves. They talk to their minds the way a commander talks to a soldier, with clarity, firmness, and purpose. They don't ask, "Can I do this?" They tell themselves, "I will do this." That's the voice of self-leadership, the quiet, unshakable authority you build when you no longer rely on the outside world to keep you moving. Most people never develop it because they depend on external pressure. They need deadlines, teachers, or accountability partners to keep them consistent. But the real champions of life understand that relying on others for discipline is weakness. True strength is when you can drive yourself forward, even when no one demands it. Berhe. Becoming your own coach begins with mastering your self-talk. The conversations you have with yourself determine whether you rise or fall. When your mind says, "I'm tired," your inner coach must respond, "We're not done yet." When fear whispers, "What if I fail?" your inner voice must say, "We'll learn and come back stronger." That internal dialogue becomes the difference between success and stagnation. Every great achievement in history was born from someone who decided to coach themselves through doubt, through pain, through uncertainty. The mind is both your greatest ally and your worst enemy. When left untrained, it will protect you from discomfort, but when trained, it will lead you to greatness. Self-coaching means choosing direction over emotion, progress over pleasure, and responsibility over excuses. You can't build this mindset overnight. It's a habit, one that's forged through repetition. You begin by setting small challenges for yourself and holding yourself accountable. You tell yourself what needs to be done, and then you do it. No negotiation, no delay. Each time you follow through, you strengthen your mental authority. Over time, your mind starts to listen to you automatically. It learns that your words are commands, not suggestions. That's when everything changes, when your thoughts stop being obstacles and start becoming tools. The more you act from this space of inner leadership, the more control you gain over your emotions, your focus, and your results. You no longer need the world to push you because you've built an engine within that never runs out of fuel. Being your own coach also means being brutally honest with yourself. A real coach doesn't let you get away with excuses, and neither should you. When you fall short, admit it. When you procrastinate, confront it. When you lose focus, correct it. That honesty isn't self-criticism, it's self-respect, because only those who care deeply about their potential are willing to face their weaknesses without denial. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be aware and accountable. Awareness gives you control, and control gives you power. When you start taking full responsibility for your growth, you stop blaming circumstances or other people. You realize that your destiny is not in anyone else's hands but your own. The person who becomes their own coach becomes unstoppable. Because once you've learned to guide yourself, no obstacle can truly hold you back. You'll always find a way, always find a strategy, always find a reason to keep going. That is the mindset of the disciplined, the achievers, the builders of their own destiny. You won't need validation, reminders, or approval because you'll already have something far stronger, self-command. When you reach that point, life becomes simpler. You stop wasting energy on seeking motivation and start using that energy to execute. You become calm, focused, and resilient. And when others wonder how you keep moving forward no matter what, you'll know the truth. It's because you learned to be your own coach. The one voice that never leaves you, never gives up on you, and never lets you settle for less than your best. Greatness is never born under the spotlight. It's created in isolation when the noise fades and you are left alone with your ambition. The world only sees the results, the strength, the success, the mastery, but it never sees the silent hours behind them. Those hours, the ones filled with solitude and sacrifice, are the birthplace of every champion. They are where your mind sharpens, your purpose deepens, and your will becomes unbreakable. Most people run from silence because it exposes them. It forces them to face their thoughts, their fears, and their insecurities. But those who embrace the quiet, who use it as a forge instead of a prison, become unstoppable. Because silence doesn't weaken them, it refines them. It becomes the environment where they transform effort ordinary to exceptional. Ibra. In the silent hours, distractions disappear, the noise of comparison fades, and you are left with nothing but the truth, who you are, what you want, and how much effort you're truly willing to give. That clarity is rare. It's uncomfortable because it reveals how far you still have to go. But that's exactly why it's powerful. The silence forces you to confront your potential and decide if you're ready to rise to it. Every moment you spend working quietly is a declaration of commitment. It's proof that you value progress more than attention, that you are not driven by the need to be seen, but by the need to become. And in that silence, you begin to build something that no audience can give you, genuine self-mastery. Those who learn to thrive in solitude find a strength that cannot be broken. Because once you've built yourself in silence, you no longer depend on anyone's energy to keep going. You learn to fuel yourself from within. The world's praise no longer controls you, and its criticism no longer stops you. You move from a place of inner certainty. You face the loneliness, the doubt, the quiet moments when quitting felt easier, and you chose to stay. That choice becomes your armor. It hardens your mind. It makes you resilient in ways the comfortable will never understand. The silent hours are where your spirit learns endurance, where you realize that the reward is not just the result, but the strength you built on the way. Ibra silence also breeds focus. When you strip away the noise, your mind can finally concentrate on what matters. You start hearing your inner voice more clearly. You begin to operate with precision instead of distraction. That's why the people who spend their time in focused solitude always outgrow those who live for constant stimulation. They use their time intentionally. They learn, plan, and execute without needing the world's permission. Each quiet hour becomes an investment in their future, a deposit into the bank of greatness. And just like financial growth, this compound interest of effort grows unseen at first. Then suddenly, it explodes into undeniable success. So never underestimate the silent hours. Never think that your unseen work doesn't matter. Those moments when you're working while the world sleeps, when no one texts, calls, or cares, those are your golden hours, because in that stillness, you are building what others will one day call luck. Every master, every legend, every success story is a product of lonely work, of repetition, focus, and self-belief. Silence is not your enemy. It is your secret advantage. It's where your identity evolves, where your power grows, where your dreams begin to take form. When you embrace it instead of avoiding it, you gain something far greater than recognition. You gain strength, you gain control, you gain peace. And when the world finally sees your success, it will look effortless. but you'll know the truth, that it was the silent hours that built the giant within you. Pushing yourself when no one is watching is not about motivation. It's about discipline. Motivation is temporary. It fades when things get hard. Discipline, however, is permanent. It carries you through the days when you feel empty, tired, and unseen. Most people only give their best when someone is keeping score, when eyes are on them, or when praise is promised. But those who rise to greatness operate differently. They perform with the same intensity whether or not anyone is watching, because their drive doesn't come from validation. It comes from vision. They've learned that excellence is not something you turn on when people are around. It's something you live by every moment, every day, especially when no one will ever notice. That's when true strength is formed. In the unseen repetitions, in the lonely mornings, in the late nights when the world is silent, but your purpose is loud. Abru, when you push yourself in private, you build integrity. Integer. It means doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's invisible. It means holding yourself accountable without needing applause. It's easy to impress others for a moment, but it's much harder to impress yourself consistently. The one who masters that, who demands excellence from themselves when no one's keeping track, becomes unstoppable because they are no longer bound by external approval. They are not performing for the world. They are performing for their destiny. That's why private discipline always leads to public power. The work you do in silence speaks for you when the time comes. The quiet sacrifices, the unseen repetitions, the endless practice, they show up when it matters most. You don't have to announce your effort. Your results will whisper it louder than words ever could. Discipline in silence also trains your subconscious mind to obey your conscious goals. Every time you choose to stay consistent without anyone watching, you send a message to your inner self, I am serious about my purpose. That message repeats, and repetition programs belief. Soon your mind begins to operate in alignment with your goals automatically. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop craving recognition. You simply do what needs to be done because you've built the identity of a finisher, someone who doesn't need witnesses to give their best. That is the real victory. When you no longer rely on outside pressure to perform, you become free. You take control of your destiny. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect, for people to support you, or for opportunities to arrive. You create them silently with persistence. Ibrowi, and remember this, when no one is watching, life is testing you. It's asking, do you really want it? Are you willing to give everything, even when no one will praise you for it? Those who fail that test never rise far because they depend on eyes to stay consistent. But those who pass it, those who show up for their goals day after, our day, unseen and uncelebrated, become warriors of the mind. They no longer chase Tion. You become unstoppable. Aber, those who depend on being watched for motivation never make it far. Their drive is external. It fades the moment the applause stops. But those who work in the dark carry an internal fire, one that never goes out because it's not fueled by attention, it's fueled by purpose. That's what separates greatness from mediocrity. Greatness isn't loud, it's patient, it's deliberate. It's built in quiet corners away from validation, where consistency replaces excitement and persistence replaces praise. Because the truth is, if you only work when someone is watching, you're performing. But if you work when no one is watching, you're transforming. You're turning effort into power and power into destiny. The hidden effort becomes the foundation of your visible success. Every time you choose to push forward in solitude, you prove something powerful, that your commitment is real. When you drag yourself out of bed early, when you stay late working towards your vision, when you keep going through exhaustion and doubt, you are sculpting your future self. Every small decision builds your strength. Every act of discipline becomes a brick in the fortress of your character. Over time, that fortress protects you from weakness, laziness, and fear. It gives you a calm, powerful confidence, the kind that doesn't need to boast because it's earned through action. When no one is around to motivate you and yet you move, you've already crossed the invisible line where ordinary people stop. That's the moment you become rare. Ibra Crew's true success is not measured by what people see. It's measured by what you do when there's no audience, no encouragement, and no reward in sight. The great paradox of achievement is that the most important work happens when no one knows you're doing it. That's why the unseen hours matter so much. They're where your mind learns endurance, where your spirit develops resilience, and where your vision gains strength. You're not chasing immediate gratification. You're building lasting transformation. And when that transformation is complete, the world will only see the tip of the iceberg, your achievements. But beneath that surface lies a mountain of silent effort, invisible to all but you. Hebrew. This is why self-respect grows in solitude. When you know how hard you've worked, how many times you refuse to quit, you don't need anyone's approval to feel proud. You've earned your own respect. You've earned your own confidence. And that self-respect is more powerful than any applause could ever be. It becomes the fuel that drives you forward, even through storms of doubt and fatigue. The one who has learned to fight in silence doesn't need noise to prove strength. Their power is quiet, but it's immense. Their will is calm, but it's unbreakable. So keep pushing even when it feels pointless. Because the moment you stop needing recognition to stay consistent, you've already won. There will be times when you feel invisible. When your effort seems to go unnoticed, your progress feels slow, and your motivation fades. That's when most people quit. They convince themselves that their work doesn't matter because no one is acknowledging it. But that's the illusion that separates the average from the great. True growth happens in the moments when no one is clapping. Those quiet stretches where you keep showing up despite doubt are what strengthen your character. When you keep going without validation, you're no longer working for approval. You're working for transformation. Every act of effort in the dark is a silent contract between you and your destiny. You're saying, I will not stop, no matter who's watching. And that kind of promise builds a power that nothing can break. Because when you're invisible to the world, that's when you're most visible to yourself. The loneliness of self-improvement is the price of greatness. You can't expect company on the road to mastery because most people quit halfway. The discipline to stay consistent when no one else believes in you, to push harder when everyone else rests, is what turns effort into excellence. It's in those private moments that your mind learns strength, your emotions learn control, and your spirit learns patience. The world will only see the result later, the achievements, the recognition, the success. But by then you'll know that none of it was luck. It was the lonely nights, the early mornings, the quiet sacrifices that no one applauded. Every unseen moment of effort is stored energy waiting to explode into visible success. So don't curse the silence. Use it, because silence isn't a void. It's your training ground. It's where you sharpen your blade before stepping into battle. When you learn to keep going without attention, you build a rare kind of peace, the peace of knowing you're doing what must be done, even without reward. Most people chase results. Few build habits. Results may come and go, but habits last forever. Every time you work in silence, you're reinforcing the habits that create success automatically. You no longer need to force yourself to do the right thing. It becomes part of who you are. That's why silent workers always rise. They build habits that make effort natural and progress inevitable. While others look for motivation, they operate on principle. While others need a reason to act, they act because it's who they are. And eventually, that quiet consistency turns into unstoppable momentum, the kind of force that no failure can hold down. Success is a mental battle before it's a physical one. The real struggle happens in your mind, between your desire to grow and your urge to stay comfortable. The moments when no one is watching are when this battle becomes fiercest. That's when your excuses sound the loudest, when your comfort zone feels the safest, and when giving up seems reasonable. But if you push through that mental resistance, you gain something far more valuable than progress. You gain, control over yourself. The ability to command your thoughts, to silence your doubts, and to move forward despite fear is the foundation of every victory in life. Once you master your inner world, the outer world follows. You can't be defeated by external challenges if your inner strength is unshakable. Pushing yourself in private strengthens that inner muscle. Each time you act against laziness, each time you reject the easy path, you reinforce mental toughness. The mind begins to understand that comfort is temporary, but growth is permanent. You begin to enjoy the discomfort because it becomes proof that you're evolving. That's what separates winners from dreamers. Winners learn to find pride in their private pain. They see every moment of unseen struggle as a test of who they are becoming. The world doesn't have to see your suffering. It just has to feel your results later. And when those results come, they carry the weight of every private battle you fought and won. The mind must be trained to obey the vision. Every time you push yourself when no one is watching, you're teaching your mind discipline. You're saying, I control you, you don't control me. That's power. Not physical power, but mental dominance. When you can direct your thoughts toward purpose, even in moments of fatigue or frustration, you become unstoppable. The noise of the world can't distract you because your focus is internal. You no longer chase comfort, you chase growth. You no longer wait for motivation, you create momentum. That's when you cross the invisible line between mediocrity and mastery. Because mastery begins the moment you decide to act. Not because you feel ready, but because you refuse to stay the same. The next time you find yourself alone, tired, and tempted to quit, remember, no one needs to see your work for it to matter. Every repetition counts. Every silent hour contributes. Every act of private effort writes the story of your strength. When the world finally sees you, success, it will look like magic. But you'll know it wasn't magic. It was mental war. A war you fought and won when no one was watching. Every person who has ever achieved greatness has faced one unshakable truth. Progress is invisible long before it becomes undeniable. In the beginning, there are no results, no applause, no signs that what you're doing is working. There is only effort. That's where most people stop. They mistake the silence for failure. They think that because no one sees their work, it has no meaning. But the truth is, everything meaningful starts in obscurity. Seeds grow underground before they rise into the light. Steel is forged in heat long before it becomes strong enough to build anything. The same law applies to you. You must trust the process when it's quiet, when it's slow, when it seems like nothing is changing. Because what's really happening is transformation beneath the surface, the kind that only reveals itself with time and consistency. When you push yourself while unseen, you're building momentum that the world can't yet perceive. The small, repetitive acts you perform in solitude, the studying, the training, the refining, are not wasted. They're compounding. Every action is a deposit into your future success. You may not see immediate rewards, but they're accumulating quietly, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The people who quit early never experience this explosion of growth because they stop before the compound effect takes over. But the disciplined few, the ones who stay consistent in silence, eventually experience results that look effortless, not because they are easy, but because they've been earned through years of invisible effort. The hardest part of pushing in silence is faith. You have to believe that your effort matters long before there's evidence to prove it. You have to hold your vision when nothing around you supports it. That faith, tested daily by doubt, becomes unbreakable over time. It teaches you patience, humility, and strength. When you stop needing immediate validation, you become immune to disappointment. You no longer depend on quick rewards or external approval. You learn to find satisfaction in the process itself. That's when true mastery begins, when the journey becomes its own reward. You realize that every repetition, every silent struggle, every small act of effort is shaping you into someone powerful, someone disciplined, someone ready for whatever life demands next. And when your results finally appear, they won't just impress others, they'll surprise them. Because no one saw the hours you worked when they were asleep. No one saw the effort you gave when you could have rested. They'll see the outcome and call it talent, luck, or destiny. But you'll know the truth. It was discipline, faith, and silence that built everything. The invisible work made the visible success inevitable. There's something sacred about the moments when you're alone with your goals. It's in those moments that your true self emerges. Not the version you show the world, but the version that decides whether you'll rise or remain the same. When you're alone, there's no one to impress, no one to compare to, no one to depend on. Just you and you, Ibraki, are choices. That's where character is built. Character is not what you display publicly, it's what you do privately when no one is there to applaud or correct you. When you choose discipline over comfort, focus over distraction, and effort over excuses, you're strengthening that inner core. You're training your spirit to endure. You're shaping the identity of someone who can't be broken by circumstance. Solitude is not loneliness. It's a mirror. It shows you your strengths and weaknesses with brutal honesty. When you work in silence, you come face to face with your fears, your procrastination, your habits. It's uncomfortable, but that's where transformation begins. Because once you face those parts of yourself, you can master them. T. The noise of the world often hides your flaws, but silence exposes them so you can correct them. The quiet space where most people feel lost is the same space where the strong build clarity. It's where they understand themselves deeply and align their energy toward purpose. The ones who embrace that inner confrontation are the ones who grow the most. You see, no audience can give you strength. Only solitude can. When you're alone and still choose to show up, still choose to push, still choose to commit, that's power. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about proving everything to yourself. The battle you fight in those quiet moments becomes your advantage when challenges arise. Because you've already built resilience in the dark, you can face pressure in the light. You no longer break under stress because you've trained your mind to remain calm, disciplined, and relentless, even without supervision. That's what silent work does. It builds warriors out of ordinary people. And this truth will always remain: the work done in solitude echoes the loudest in success. The applause, the recognition, the achievement, they are all reflections of what you built when no one saw you. So never underestimate the quiet hours. They are not wasted time. They are the foundation of greatness. Each silent victory over laziness, doubt, and fear adds strength to your spirit. And one day, when you finally rise, you'll realize that the solitude you once hated was the very thing that made you unstoppable. The path of the unseen worker is not easy. It's filled with moments of silence, doubt, and invisible struggle. You'll question yourself often. You'll wonder if the effort is worth it, if the sacrifice has meaning, if the dream you're chasing will ever become real. These thoughts are not signs of weakness. They are the natural resistance every great mind must face before transformation. The difference between those who make it and those who don't lies in one decision: to keep going despite uncertainty. Every time you push forward in those moments of doubt, you are planting seeds of strength within yourself. You're proving that your purpose is stronger than your fear. That persistence becomes your most powerful ally. It's the force that turns quiet effort into unstoppable momentum. Discipline in isolation builds something few ever experience: peace through purpose. While others drown in distractions, you operate with intention. While others chase recognition, you chase results. You learn to detach from the noise and find focus in the stillness. That focus sharpens your vision and clears your path. You begin to see that every challenge is shaping you, every setback is teaching you, every failure is strengthening your will. This understanding transforms pain into power. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you embrace it. You start to see effort not as a burden, but as proof that you're growing. The loneliness that once felt like punishment becomes your sanctuary, a space where you connect with your higher self, your mission, and your inner strength. Those who depend on constant validation never learn this kind of peace. They live for approval, for applause, for reassurance that they're enough. But those who master themselves in silence need none of that. Their sense of worth comes from within. They don't need to be told. They're doing well. They know it through the quiet satisfaction of progress. They've learned the most powerful truth in life, that real confidence is built in private. It's not about being seen, it's about being certain. And that certainty only comes from doing the work no one else sees. The effort, the discipline, the commitment, it all adds up to a self-belief that cannot be shaken. That's the kind of power that carries you through storms. So when the silence feels unbearable, remember this: silence is not a sign of emptiness, it's a sign of growth. The caterpillar must isolate before it becomes the butterfly. The seed must be buried before it blooms. Likewise, you must be unseen before you become unstoppable. Every quiet day, every unseen hour, every small act of consistency is part of your transformation. Keep trusting it, because one day, when the world finally sees your results, they'll call you lucky, but you'll know the truth: it wasn't luck. It was the silent hours, the endless discipline, and the faith to keep going when no one was watching. There's a shift that happens when you stop needing external motivation and start relying on internal drive. You move from being pushed to being pulled. Pulled by your vision, by your purpose, by the person you are becoming. That's when your work transcends routine and becomes destiny. The moment you stop needing reminders to be great is the moment you step into power. Because now your drive doesn't depend on the world. It comes from within you. This is the secret of those who dominate their fields. They don't wait to feel inspired. They act first, and inspiration follows. They've trained their minds to associate effort with identity. Working hard isn't something they do, it's who they are. That identity, forged in private, becomes their greatest weapon. This inner pull is what makes some people unstoppable. They no longer ask, do I feel like it? They simply ask, what needs to be done? That mindset is the result of years of self-discipline, of countless unseen days where they showed up without reward. You can't fake that kind of strength. It's built one quiet decision at a time. Every moment you push yourself alone, when no one is encouraging you, when your progress feels invisible, you're reinforcing that identity. You're telling your mind, I don't wait for permission to grow. And slowly that belief hardens into truth. You become the kind of person who doesn't break under pressure, who doesn't crumble under criticism, who doesn't rely on circumstances to succeed. And once you've built that inner strength, everything changes. You stop chasing outcomes and start mastering yourself. You realize that success isn't something you achieve, it's something you embody. You become success long before the world recognizes it. The hours you spend in solitude, the effort no one praises, the sacrifices no one sees, all of it becomes part of your being. That's when people start to notice. They see the confidence, the calm, the mastery, and they mistake it for natural talent. But deep down, you'll know it was built through relentless private effort. So when you wake up tomorrow and the world is still silent, smile. Because that silence is your invitation to grow. It's the space where you build your empire, where you forge your spirit, where you create your legacy. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for eyes to notice you. Push yourself because you said you would. Push yourself because it's who you are now, because one day, when the results are undeniable, the same silence that once felt lonely will feel sacred. It will remind you of where you came from and of the strength you built when no one was watching. There comes a moment in every journey when the world finally begins to notice what you've built in silence. People will see your success, your discipline, your transformation, and they'll wonder how you did it. They'll talk about your results but never understand the struggle. They'll admire the shine but never know the grind. They'll see the mountain you've climbed but not the nights you spent climbing it in the dark, bruised, tired, and alone. And that's the beauty of it. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to validate the pain or the effort. Because the truth is, your reward was never their recognition. It was the person you became through the process. You built something priceless, a mind that refuses to quit, a spirit that doesn't need permission, and a strength that no one can take away. When you push yourself when no one is watching, you awaken something within that. Can't be found in comfort. You awaken self-trust, the quiet, unshakable confidence that says, I can depend on me. That's the real victory. Because when you truly trust yourself, you become unstoppable. You stop doubting your path. You stop needing others to tell you what's possible. You stop waiting for support or ideal conditions. You act, you create, you persist. You become the type of person whose actions define their destiny. Every silent hour, every unrecognized effort, every moment of private discipline was shaping that version of you. The version who no longer needs an audience to stay consistent, who no longer needs a push to chase greatness. You've learned to move with purpose, to fight with calm, and to endure with faith. That is real power.